YouTube, hello, Saint Riot, Elden Ring PvP. There's the build. Take a look at it. Enjoy it. Enjoy looking at it. We are using Helfen Steeple. We are using Death's Poker. We are using Death Ritual Spear. We are a Deathbird Man, minus the spells. We don't have any of the spells because this is only level 80. I am currently obsessed. I have an entire PlayStation profile, an entire PSN, just dedicated to level 80 builds. Level 80 is so good. It's so good in this game. Like, your build can just be perfect, finished, you know. You can take damage. It's fine. It's just a very nice place to invade. Also, there's a ton of great places to invade. You know, and it's fun. This is the build. Pretty nice. Pretty nice. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. It's pretty nice. I've been playing with this build a lot, doing some invasions, trying to figure out like what works, when is it right to use which thing. This build, I could have like a ballista or a jar cannon on this build. You can get away without it, thanks to the spear. The Death Ritual Spear, Ash of War, is absolutely pretty good. It's not bad as a ranged option. I like to, you know, the Greatsword obviously has hyper armor. That's like the main focus of the build, is using that weapon. We use the spear to chase people, and then we use the Death's Poker to just blow people up, you know, if that ever becomes the thing that you need to do. If that becomes like you're, you know, uh-oh, I'm trapped somewhere small with people chasing me, like a hallway or something, Death's Poker right there can be pretty good. But the reason I made this build was for the Steeple, so the Steeple is like the main focal point. The Steeple got a buff in a patch, which was pretty nice. Yeah, I always wanted to try it out, you know, because I loved the Onyx Blade in Dark Souls 3. And so as soon as I found the Steeple, I was like, okay, dope, I'll make a build for that. And it just got away from me forever. It just forever got away from me until I saw that it got patched. In the last patch, I saw that it got buffed, and I was like, oh yeah, I've been meaning to make a build out of that. And so I did. In case you missed the last video, I tried to use the spells, but they have these insane faith requirements, like 30 faith for Ghost Flame Explosion. That's just insane on a build where all of the damage comes from strength and int, or if you're using the Death Ritual Spear, all of your damage is coming from dex and int. That's just a dumb thing. People gripe all the time about how there's not enough int faith weapons in this game, and you know, I totally feel that. Yeah, sure. They should have just made these weapons int faith. If the spells are int faith anyway, then make the weapons int faith also. That way int faith has more cool weapons to use. And you could say, well, you can just use that weapon on an int faith build. And it's like, yeah, you can, but it would feel more like you were making a build, you know, if this weapon actually had like a faith requirement that was necessary. Why do I need faith to cast a Ghost Flame Explosion spell, a sorcery, but I don't need faith to get my sword to buff itself with Ghost Flame? And I don't need faith to make the Death's Poker explode with Ghost Flame. I don't understand the logic there. And, you know, give them like a faith requirement and faith scaling on these weapons. Doesn't even have to be good, but it would at least be something for an int faith build, you know? People would gripe that it's not good, and that's fine, but at least it would exist. But, yeah, it's a fun weapon, and it does a lot of damage. It's very good. It builds up Frostbite, same as the Moonlight Greatsword, but only when it's buffed. The Death's Poker builds up Frostbite as well, all the time. The Death Ritual Spear does not build up Frostbite. In order to get the sword, the Helfen Steeple, you have to kill the Tibia Mariner that is located in the catacomb. I'm sorry, the Giants mountaintops. I always say catacombs because I'm always telling people to farm something from the Giants catacombs, usually the Watchdog Greatsword. Anyway, I'm sorry. You don't have to go to any catacombs. You just have to go to the Giants mountaintops. And there's a Tibia Mariner. And you beat him and you get the steeple. Then, right after, and I'm talking like right after you beat the Mariner, you will fight a Deathbird. And the Deathbird gives you the spear. And if you want the poker, you have to fight a Deathbird that's in Caelid, very close to a Grace, right outside of the spooky wizard town where all of the invisible wizards live, Celia. So, like, right outside of Celia, there's a Deathbird at night. It's actually in between Celia and the Night Cavalry that shows up at night, and that's where you get the Death's Poker. The armor you have to farm from any enemy that's wearing it. I like completely tried to like black out my character's face so that it looks like they're headless under their helmet, and I kept, I picked a helmet where the visor was up so that it would look like, just a headless set of armor, because I thought that was pretty cool, and the game won't let me take my head off because it's a coward's game. We're using the Mausoleum Knight chest piece, and then the Mausoleum Soldier gloves and leggings, and then just the Vagabond Knight helmet. And our Wondrous Physic is the physic that gives us extra defense, like an extra 10% absorption for 3 minutes, as well as magic damage up by 10% or whatever it is for 3 minutes. So that's what's in our Wondrous Physic. And all of the weapons do magic damage, and all the Ashes of War do even more magic damage. So magic damage was kind of a no-brainer. And when I first tried to make this build and cast the Death Bird sorceries, I had to have faith. And so I was wearing a Scar Seal, and I hated it. My absorptions were so low. So that's why even after getting rid of the Scar Seal, I still felt like my absorptions weren't high enough. So I put that in my Wondrous Physics so that I could have even more absorption. The weapon is great. All these weapons are actually really fun. The spear is weak, but its Ash of War is good and strong, and its crit values. So like after a parry or a backstab, it has the best critical modifier with 110. But it doesn't do a lot of damage, one-handed or two-handed, but it's good at chasing people around. People that are just running from you, you can chase with the spear. So while it's not great, it's not bad, and that's fine. And obviously it fits the theme of the build, so that's what we went with. And I like it. I like the Ash of War enough that it justifies using this thing for me, which is more than I could say for the spells that I was trying to cast. 30 faith on a build that doesn't get any other benefit from leveling up faith. Absolutely ridiculous. I'm sorry. I'm harping. But these invasions, these were a ton of fun. Bunch of really great invasions. And I hope that me rambling does not take away from you enjoying said invasions. At level 80, you're getting a good look at where you will typically invade. And Shaded Castle is one of the places that you will come to a lot at level 80 doing invasions. And I love this area, so this place rules. Typically not a fan of invading at the very end of the level, but to the credit of these co-opers right here, they didn't just run to the boss, they were looking for invasions. As you can tell, they've got the Taunter's Tongue active, so a second invader shows up, just looking for a fun time, were these two. So, typically I don't like invading at the very end of the castle, but these two were fun, so it worked out better than most Shaded Castle invasions work out. when you invade someone and they're at the end of the dungeon already, or the castle. If you happen to be looking at the comments of this video and you see somebody asking what songs are used in this video, you can timestamp them to right about here, and then I will tell them that the songs used in this video are Apparitions from the Sekiro soundtrack and Death's Kindred from the Elden Ring soundtrack. And people always ask, and it's always, you know, I just forget to put it, I just forget to say it, or like put it in a comment or something, you know. But the music I use in these videos is like so hardwired into my brain that I just don't think about people not knowing what they are, you know. That's how often I hear these things. This invasion right here is really fun. These people were right outside Dectus Lift. They were hanging out near the Tower of Frenzy, fighting the Frenzy rats when I show up. And they get a blue, because of course they do. And the blue is using dual sleep swords, which I'm sure they got legitimately at level 80. I'm sure nobody dropped them 2 sleep swords for their level 80 build. That probably didn't happen. I gripe about it, but I honestly don't care. Not everybody has as much time as me to just sit around and play this game forever. Boom! Look at that. How great is it? It's great. Is the answer. I'm going to. I'm not considering. I am going to grab Alexander's shard for this build just to see what kind of difference it makes, because I suspect it might be super noticeable on Death's Poker, but I'm curious, and it might, and also the Death Ritual Spear. I'm curious about what kind of you know, change it will have on the Steeple, because the Steeple's Ash of War is that it buffs itself. Does it make the buff do more damage because the buff is a swing? Or does it just make the buff stronger? Does it do both? I'm curious, and I want to test that out. So I will do that at some point. But I just, you know, when I start invading, it's like opening a can of chips. You just eat the whole thing. You know, I just couldn't stop invading. And this invasion was great. The blues show up, and we have a fight. They've got the dual sleep swords. The homie back there is using like the starting knight halberd. I forget what the original Phantom was using, but outside of the sleep swords, this is pretty honest. This is a pretty honest invasion on the part of everyone involved. God, I know they nerfed it, but like it'll never be enough. I'm not saying they should nerf it again. I'm just saying, for me, the dual sleep sword and the dual frenzy, like it can never be nerfed enough. You know? I know people think it's fun, and, you know, that's fair, but I hate it, and I wish they'd just nerf it into the ground even more. I'm getting my ass whipped. They're just chasing me all around here. The host's connection is obviously a little wonky for some reason. Something I was actually talking to some people about. Obviously, Elden Ring's netcode still has, like, some major issues, and some issues left over from, like, just every other game that has used this same netcode. But, I mean, good lord, it's so much better than it was. You don't see people like this host, you know? We were having, like, some wonky issues, and then they just resolved. I've skipped ahead a little bit here. Those issues resolved, and everything was better. If you guys ever tried Dark Souls 3, Invasions PvP, you'll know that like when another player showed up in a world, the host would just start lagging out no matter what. Like 90% of the time, they'd just start like not animating and just floating around strangely. And that seems to be gone. Also in Dark Souls 3, whenever I would invade, if I fought someone who was playing on Wi-Fi, like I could just always tell. You know, a ton of people play on Wi-Fi, and you could just always tell who was playing on Wi-Fi in Dark Souls 3. But it's not the same in Elden Ring. Elden Ring is much smoother, I think. It obviously still has some issues, but it's nice that a lot of it has been ironed out, a little bit, at least. I'm going to fast forward here, because this invasion went on for like 30 minutes. It's like a 30-minute long invasion, which I love. I'm totally down with it. I have lured them out here to the Frenzy Tower, and you know, they can become frenzied by the Eye of Sauron that hovers over that tower. I am immune to it, which is great. They keep looking for safe places, and I am using the Death Ritual Spear to take the safe places away, and it's just a tug of war like that for a while. And just a really fun invasion by my standards. I know not everybody would love this type of invasion, but I do. So you get to watch it, and you get to experience it, and, you know, hopefully, if anything, you know, maybe you won't enjoy this type of invasion, but you might enjoy watching someone else do it. And yeah, in that case, here you go. I love doing it. I think it's great. Yeah, this is more blues are coming in, and I'm able to beat the blues. And if I beat the blues, I get you know, my blue Estus back, and not Estus, sorry, I get my blue flask back, my blue tears, as well as 2 crimson tears, which is keeping me alive here, which is nice. And if they're not beating enemies, then their flasks are not getting refilled, right? So if their flasks aren't getting refilled, then this becomes a battle of attrition that I can actually win. And so I'm content to let it be a battle of attrition, as it is right here. There's 2 types of blues in this world. There are the blues like this one here, who will fight and stay by this host to the bitter end. And then there are the blues, who are all the other blues you're seeing in this invasion. They show up, and they're like, oh, well, I'll try and help, but I've got my own stuff going on, so I don't plan on being here all day, right? Like, those are the 2 different types of blues. And the second type, the type who has their own thing going on, and so they don't want to be here all day, I love those guys. Those guys serve a function in gameplay that is obviously intentional. The purpose that they serve is to break a stalemate. And if a game is locked in a stalemate, one of these dudes showing up absolutely breaks that stalemate. Now something has to happen, because this dude wants to get back to his own game. He wants to get back to the stuff that he was doing. He is going to try and help, but, you know, it's no skin off his teeth if he loses right here. He doesn't, you know, lose his runes for it or whatever. And him breaking that stalemate allows me to keep applying pressure while these 2 are trying to be safe. Now at this point, the other blue is out of resources. No more flasks, no more anything. And so this probably should have dawned on him earlier, but it dawns on him now that the only chance he has is to come out here and beat me and just try and avoid the frenzy, which is easier said than done, and it's just too much, you know. Also the rat. Great invasion. I love it. I think they're great. You might not, but I love it. That's pretty much it. That's pretty much the video. Thank you guys for watching it. I'll have more of this build later on, and I will see you then. Until that day, later, y'all.